Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online program where we celebrate diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. At the same time, the program is used to celebrate events, people, places, and more. I am Dr. Kemi Akiode Adebayo, known as Mama K, and in today's program to share his amazing story is the gifted musician, Mr. I need to get it right, Amaeshi Okwarachukwu Ikechi, known as Amaeshi, and he is a bass guitarist, composer, and director of Bridgestone Music, which is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. My dear brother and homeboy, and I know I got the wrong name.
No, you got it perfectly.
Well on it. Did I get it right? Okay.
Absolutely.
What does your Okwarachukwu mean? I know Chukwu is God. Yes. What does that mean? And where you from? And I know before we started, I was talking about Amaechi and Amaeshi. So can you just share that, that story with us?
Okwarachukwu means, first of all, thank you, ma'am, for having me on your platform. It's a real privilege, and I appreciate it. My name Okwarachukwu means first son of God. And it's spelled Amaeshi as opposed to the very popular Amaechi. And to my best understanding, it means there will be a continuity to my family line.
Okay.
Yes. So which is slightly, it's different from Amaechi. And I think I tried before my dad passed, I did try to ask, and that's the answer I got. But I met an elderly gentleman at Market Theatre in Johannesburg, and he really gave me a run for my money.
Really? Thinking you got it wrong.
It grilled me.
So tell us, where were you born? Obviously, the name is not from Johannesburg, and I already said my own boy. Yes. So, but where were you born, or where do you come from? Obviously, you're from Nigeria. Yes. But share with us.
I was born in Oshodi.
Okay. Lagos. Oh, you're a Lagos boy.
Yes, and I grew up in
Las Gidi. Okay. And you grew up in Lagos.
Yes, I grew up in Lagos.
Okay, but your family originally from which state?
Imo State.
Imo State. Yes. Where specifically?
Olu.
Olu.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know the place, but in case anyone from there is watching. So you grew up in Lagos. Yes. Where did you study? What position are you in your family? Well, I know you said your dad passed.
Yes, I'm the youngest of.
Oh, you're the baby.
Yes, of a family of 4.
Okay,
Yes, and grew up in the town called Ikotu, the local government.
Right.
Alimosho local government, and I did my high school in there, and so I came down to South Africa many years ago.
What brought you to before we even come to South Africa, let's go back to Nigeria first. For you as a Nigerian, what part or what are you mostly proud of as a Nigerian?
Well, if I can just there are a lot of things I'm proud of being Nigerian. So let me just make it simple and narrow it to what I do, my career as a musician. I think the opportunity to learn and just appreciate the music of my culture, especially the Igbo music and just the traditional music in general. I was raised in the Cherubim and Seraphim Church. Okay. Yeah, from the Igbo side. My parents
I would have thought that is a Yoruba. Yorubas are normally, my father is from the Cherubim and Seraphim. So I don't think I've met an Igbo person.
No,
yet.
my mom and my dad, they grew up in it. And then later I joined the Yoruba church, So I actually learned to play music in a church, and your surname actually rings a bell because the pastor was his surname was Akiode.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
we'll talk about that after.
So when I read of your name, I was like, okay, this is like bringing me home. So I learned. Imagine the experience there. I also learned to read and write Yoruba fluently. Wow. I actually had a B in Yoruba.
Wow. But can you speak Igbo though?
Well, I can, not as fluently as Yoruba.
Before you get into trouble.
I can speak not as fluently as
yes.
So, going to that point, I learned the culture, and that is the best thing that I've got in my musical ingredients.
Right.
Living in South Africa, playing jazz, the greatest thing that I believe sets me apart is that musical heritage of Nigeria. The rhythm, playing the rhythms and playing, and especially I played weddings, like the Igbo weddings in Nigeria for many years.
Okay.
You know, so that the culture of Nigeria is rich, the music, the rhythm, and.
So why did you relocate to South Africa? What brought you and when? When did you come?
2007.
Okay.
It's for a better life.
Right.
I just want to, there's one striking moment in my life that changed everything. At the point, the last year before I came to South Africa, I worked and lived in a church. And the one night, the building of the church was still in the process of being completed.
Right.
So one night I just couldn't sleep in Surulere. The mosquito was just so much. And that night I came outside in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and I said, God, take me out of this country. It's not an indictment on the country. No. But that was a state in which I was. And by that time, my brother was already in South Africa. 3 years. So I just cried. I said, God, take me out of here. And it did happen 6 months later.
Wow. So your brother was here, so obviously you have family looking before you.
Yes.
Let me go back a little bit to your parents now. You becoming a musician, how did they feel? Even though, yes, you know, you grew up in the church, part of a band, and I was reading a little bit about your bio there that you wanted to play instruments and you saw the bass guitar. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, when my family, by the time I was 16, I was already playing, of course, at the age of 13. But we
so you started playing at the age
of 13. So my family, we had financial challenges, of course. My dad was already out of work by that time. By the time I finished my WAEC, even just before, and my mom was a petty trader. Right. So as soon as I finished my WAEC, what I had, even before, I would be the one to go help her set up trading and be there all the time. And we all basically survived on the money from that little trade. Wow. So
powerful woman. Is she still alive?
She's still alive.
Okay, that's awesome.
You know, so as soon as we had an opportunity, we were out, you know. So there was no choice. The only thing I had at this time was music, because I had tried to get into the university to study accounting, which was another passion I had besides music. But I kept writing the jam, the poly jam, the jam, poly jam, jam. So I'm just trying to summarize everything. You're saying why music, and there was nothing else. The only thing I had was music. Right. And that was the only thing that kept me sane. And this was around the time where the Yahoo was now new. And most of my peers at that time, they were going into it. Music was that one thing that gave me my life back. Because before then, I struggled a lot. There was no money, of course. This is not a matter of TV or clothes. This is a matter of just living life. So I had so much insecurity going on, like the issue of identity. You know, I questioned myself a lot, and you know, I struggled with my identity. But as soon as I picked up the bass at the age of 13, not because I had any form of excellence, but just because I found something that gave me a sense of belonging, something I could express, and it just never stopped. So I just kept going at it, and by the age of 16 and 16 and a half, when I finished matric, that is WAEC, I was already in bands. I was able to work, so I left home to fend for myself with music.
So what was your first job?
My first job, well, I played at church, and I got paid for that. Right. And then I did gigs with a great musician called Duro Ikujeyo. I don't know if you heard about him, but he did work with Fela at some point. Right. So, you know, that was it. Then I played with some local bands, African Lagidos. We played like different circuits. But then I played weddings with a gentleman, the Igbo weddings. So that was all I had. you know, I would play, and I just kept practicing, but there wasn't any big success. And looking in hindsight, I did that for 9 years. I have asked myself, why didn't I quit? Because there was, I couldn't, I think it was sure love for it.
Okay.
That's it.
And the gift you have in you. So now let's come back to South Africa. So you came 2007,
yes,
which was a year after I came. So you're becoming Baba South Africa gradually. Do you know that?
Absolutely.
You're becoming Baba South Africa. So I believe joining family as well, you know, helps, you know, with it. What for you in terms of South African culture have you picked that you admire, you know, that stands out for you in South Africa?
Okay, it's the value for language and culture. It's different. So I was going to tell you about names. I grew up in Lagos, and I went to Muslim college in Egbe. So
oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and my first name, obviously, Okwarachukwu.
Yes.
So my Yoruba brothers changed it to Okwarachukwu.
Yoruba people, we are.
So, and I was bullied with that.
I can
So,
imagine.
cut the long story short.
Oh my.
I finished primary school. This was Ilewe Primary School.
Okay.
So one day I'm walking on the street of Alimosho Road and Liasu Road. And I said, this guy is just yelling, Sam, Sam, Sam. Who is Sam? I look back. It's my friend from primary school.
Okay.
Okay, though we exchanged pleasantries, we spoke, and we parted ways. Then I'm thinking, this guy called me Sam. I didn't ask him why he called me Sam, but I was more intrigued about the fact that Sam actually sounds cool.
Okay.
This might be my escape from the bullying.
Ah, okay.
So I started introducing myself as Sam after that. Long story cut short, I arrived in South Africa, and after working with, I met Sticks OJ, who was a piano player for Mam Mira Makeba. So
I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, so let's keep that story.
No. Keep going. Keep going.
I met with him. Story. I started working. I started working with Sticks OJ. Then after I met Silailo Silota, who was the next big artist I worked with. Then, but I started becoming aware that no one actually went by an English name. And by Silailo actually is a very huge. I would not talk about my career without mentioning him. He started like teaching me about the value of identity and you know, and all those things. It was more than just having a gig. It was more a mentorship, a relationship, and how to hone a sound musically and also identity. So I started looking and comparing all this things. I think there's something, I don't think it's making sense. Sam is the most common name. So I thought I have to go back to my name. Then I thought, what name? Okwarachukwu is going to be...
It's too long.
I thought,
tongue twisted.
my other name, Ikechi. Ikechi Amaeshi. It's difficult. Amaeshi Ikechi is easier.
Right.
So I thought, okay, it will be Amaeshi Ikechi. So that's how it came about.
Beautiful. You know what? We'll be right back. Wow, Amaeshi, very, very, very interesting journey so far. Your names, like you said, were just Yoruba people, eh? Stop all that, eh? It's our Yoruba boy. So born in Lagos, came to South Africa in 2007, started playing, you know, in church from the age of 13.
Yes.
And then, you know, served on the people, worked in the church, and I can't believe Mosquito, you know, will feature in your life. But it shows you how something that a lot of people take for granted can have an impact, you know, in people's lives. So the fact that, you know, that happened within 6 months, you waking up at night, and your love for music, the influence, the mentorship of those who have put into your life, the culture bits that, you know, you've picked, you know, for South Africa. Let me now go into Bridgestone. So you are the director for Bridgestone Music, which is based in Johannesburg. So tell us what you do there and when that was started.
Well, Bridgestone, that was started, let me look back. I think it was registered I think 2009,
Okay.
between 2009 or 10.
All right.
Yes, first of all, the idea, it was also in line with the permit I had acquired, to live in South Africa.
Right.
Yes, so then also in line with that, running my financial business.
Right.
And also then subsequently, years down the line, I started doing a lot of functions, just besides being a jazz musician or whatever, just doing events for people, consulting, recording and stuff. So that's basically what Bridgestone does.
Okay. So I know you've already shared some of your musical journey with us a little bit, but I want to hear about some more. But before I go on to where you've performed, who you've performed with, like what you said, Mama Africa, Miriam Makeba, what are some of the challenges for you as a musician? Because you're an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
You're on your own. You run your own business.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges and how have you managed to overcome them?
Well, I think holistically, if I would like to go a bit back, the challenges. I think for me, being someone from another country coming to work here, I got into the pop scene, which you mentioned in the Sticks OJ, Miriam Makeba, all this. Those were easy to get into because, you already had the foundations, church and all these things. But then going out from there to taking it to the next level, first of all, I wouldn't call it a challenge in that sense. It's just understanding that, okay, how far do you want to take the career to? You understand? Because it was easy to stay in that glory as a young 22-year-old I was back then, saying, oh, I'm having a time of my life, playing all the festivals, going traveling and stuff. But now when I had to transition into playing in the jazz scene, I realized that I was the only guy who had not been to school.
Okay.
Who's not been formally trained. And it's not just about the certificate, because no one asks you about your certificate. But what you learn there is what actually equips you to be able to, because like someone calls you now, Amaeshi, hey, are you keen to do a gig tomorrow? You said, yes. Okay, I'll send you the music. Boom. And you arrive there, you've got to play.
Yes. Yes.
The book is right in front of you. So that training, I wasn't prepared for it. But now I got into that scene purely because of survival.
Wow.
So survival is pushing me out of my comfort zone. So I had to learn on the job, and literally every gig I got.
Wow.
And I took some gigs that I actually got burnt in sense that I couldn't meet up, and it was like very bad, but I had to go back. No giving up. I have to keep trying, keep taking it. So, and the guitarist was asking me today, so how did you get into it? And when I mentioned, he was shocked. That is the reason that it's unconventional, but that is like the survival instincts, So I don't know if I answered your question directly.
You did, yeah. In terms of, you're just being real, and you've gone through a journey of, having nothing and making the best of it, and not just being resilient, basically, as well. So what are you mostly proud of? Because I know you've performed at The Voice Nigeria, you've performed the Cape Town Jazz Festival, you've performed at various other places, and then you have, been the second Nigerian, like you said, to ever work with the legendary Mama Africa. How has that been for you? What are you mostly proud of out of some of what you've achieved?
Well, I think my greatest joy is to have been relevant from that time, to have remained relevant in the scene from 2007 that I arrived till now. Because when I look back, looking from brothers that also came from Nigeria, not a lot of people are still that relevant in the scene. So I'm grateful firstly to God, who has helped me stay at my path and just moving here and not stay in any comfort zone. So that's my greatest achievement, because every day I get to work with new people new achievements. So it's not to say those ones are old stories, but of course we keep looking forward to new things. So, but if I've not been able to step into the new shoes, then it wouldn't have been possible. So that's my greatest achievement, to have been able to stay relevant with every season.
Wow, that's beautiful. So tell us, what are your future plans? Because obviously, from what I can see, you are, very determined and very dedicated, because I believe definitely this is a calling and a gift,
yes.
for you. What are you hoping, for the future with whether Bridgestone and yes, your albums? I
Yes.
know you brought one of your
Yes.
albums. So tell us about that as well.
For me, my greatest achievement would be not just to be able to play on all the big stages. I am a firm believer of the Bible and the Word of God.
Right.
And the one scripture that has stayed strong in my heart is, I will do a new thing. And it will spring forth,
Yes.
And I believe there are lots of new things. And for me, the new thing I'm looking to do is that I practice every day. I want to be the best player and everything. But the new thing would be that my music would have so much spiritual impact on the listener that it will change lives. I've had people come to me. I actually had a lady talk to me that one day she walked into my performance, and that night she was planning to commit suicide.
Wow.
And she didn't do it. But she only told me this like 3 years later. And I don't think that was a coincidence, because I had gone through a fair share of that. But then I didn't know it was called depression. But now I know. And so when I make music or I get an opportunity to present my own concert, I'm intentional that beyond the good news and everything, I want someone's life to be touched. And I look very unassuming when you see me without my instrument, but I think there's something that changes when I hold that instrument. And on my best days, you will see that this guy is having a good time, and you can feel the joy. And I'm praying that would be even more.
Right.
So
Amen.
when it gets to that point, I will say, yes.
You're there.
Yeah, then every other thing will come, because if I get there, the world will come.
Deep and powerful, in the sense that how people overlook how music, the power of what music is. If I'm working, if I'm doing anything, when I'm stressed as well, I have to have music on. Exactly. I have to have sound. And the fact that you've been gifted, and like you said, you're in your own world, you're playing, you're performing, but you're taking people on a journey with you, into the and that mental health issue.
Yes.
Because even in Nigeria and the culture we come from, like you said, depression, things like that, we don't even talk about it. I don't even think we've started now. Let me rephrase that. It was not being done, but we've started now. But there's still more that needs to be done about it, because we're having cases of suicide increasing. We're having, either in Nigeria, in South Africa, and that, it's so deep. But how music now, like you said, the person didn't share with you till 3 years after,
later,
but you didn't know.
I didn't
you
know.
made that influence and that impact on that person at that time. Wow, that is just so beautiful. We'll be right back. we're still talking about and sharing your story, your journey, and that last segment, where your future hope, that you're saying in terms of your biblical belief that God saying you'll keep doing a new thing in your life, and you believe that this is part of what that is.
Yes.
So I can already tell what your answer will be to this question I want to ask you, which is what are the three things? I know there are probably more things, but for you that means a lot to you, that you value, and why?
My peace of mind. My peace of mind. Yes.
Okay.
And that, with that, is also my family.
Okay.
Yes, I've got the most amazing, supportive wife and children, and
she's a Yoruba girl like me. Hey, you see, we're one Nigeria. Well done to her. What's her name?
Motunrayo.
Esther
and you've
Amaeshi. Okay, and you've got children?
Yes.
Okay.
Amarachi and Demilade.
I love that. The fact that you're one Yoruba name, one Igbo name. Amarachi. I have a niece who is Amarachi as well. Yes. And Demilade, that's beautiful. Okay, and your third one?
That things I hold there, right? God. My belief in
that. That's the bit that I know that
this is my center.
So what motivates you? What keeps you going? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I think you've answered some earlier on, but what keeps you going? Why are you still, in terms of surviving, trying to, you're basically what you've been keen on was you didn't have much, but you pushed yourself. When you made a mess, you said, what keeps you going? Why are you doing this?
Along my journey within that, just towards the tail end of the 9th year in Nigeria, I got like a confirmation that I knew without a doubt that this is what I've come to this world to do.
Right.
Of course, it's not the only thing I have. I don't believe any human being is supposed to be one-dimensional. But music is connected to every other thing I'm going to be. So it's no doubt. So no matter what comes, whether rain or shine or whatever, I know there is no, maybe I should. Like during lockdown, actually, this album was triggered at lockdown.
What's the name of the album?
Travel.
Okay.
And
can I see?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And just like what happened that night when I came out and said, God, take me out of Nigeria. That was what happened at the beginning of lockdown. When it hit and everything became closed, and then no vaccine, you started hearing about the vaccine. And with entertainment, if you believe vaccine is from the devil and you cannot take it, you have a choice between the devil and God.
Yeah.
At that point,
we've been through a lot,
at that point when it became so crazy, I heard clearly in my spirit, start to write music. It was the most stupid thing to do if you were thinking rationally, because now people were changing careers. People are
especially for artists. Everywhere closed.
Yes.
So where are you going to perform? How are you going to survive?
I heard
income.
Clearly, this is the time to start writing.
Wow.
And I started writing, and the result is this.
So some of tell us, I can see here, which is Bounce, Shower Flow, Sibonga Wena. Yeah. So you did do that? It's in terms of your South African, Blues for Papa Prayer, the Morning Star, Boom, a Yoruba song, and obviously Jesu Paid It All, the King's Heart and Travel. Which one for you? It's really about the message that you heard.
Actually, all of them.
All of them.
All of them. It's just, of course, the one Blues for Papa is good. It's Blues for Papa I wrote for my father.
Okay.
Yes, and Uche's Bounce for my son. Demilade's other name is Uche. Yes.
Okay.
Shower Flow was inspired by Esther Motunrayo. But the rest, Morning Star. Who's the Morning Star? Jesus. King's Heart. Part of my story and my journey is that intentionality, because as soon as there's a disconnect, I believe, in a journey, then you start to drift.
Yeah.
So my biggest it's not a challenge. My biggest assignment is to always recalibrate to where it all started from. Otherwise, then it loses somewhere. You know, God used music to bring me back to life. And so I have to constantly make sure is at the center. And even though I love success and I want to be famous, I got to a point in my journey where I had to say to myself, I don't need the fame more than me. I don't need the fame at all cost. That I had to make peace with. So at that point I knew if I had to do a day job to stay afloat and still play the music, if that is what I would need to do, then I would do it.
Wow.
So it's as long as I can stay on the course.
You know what? We'll be right back. Powerful, powerful. You got me a little bit just thinking real deep, you know, in that last segment, you know, describing for you what you value, peace of mind, your family, and of course God, and how God, you know, used music to bring you back to life. So for you now, because obviously you're a leader with bands, when you're with a band and so on, what are the qualities a good leader should have, or what does leadership mean to you?
Okay. Okay. First of all, I've in leading my ensembles and just different because all the people I work with are people actually who brought me into the industry.
Right.
So the first thing I had to learn was how to relax and never let the pressure get me. And then secondly, use their strength as opposed to compete with them. You know, I don't have to assert that this is my music, this is my rehearsal, this is... Of course, it didn't happen overnight. I had a bit of clashes now and then with different people. Then I just knew, okay, that was unnecessary. So those are it. Then, so when I started to learn how to use their strength, it started working for me.
Right.
And then secondly, understanding that every ensemble I work with would never be like the other one.
Right.
And people would never.
Right.
So I've learned to, even the musical term or the jazz lingua, to improvise. Learn to work with what there is.
So what does success mean to you? Do you think you're successful now, or would you say you're now, so now you can rest? But I know you said earlier on about even if you have to do extra work, you're prepared to do that, but you never leave music. So are you now a success? You've performed with all these name stars on this different stage. Is that what does success mean to you?
Okay. Yeah, so you know, of course, you would agree with me that success is valued on many different fronts. Right. There is economic success, career success, and all those things. So for me, like I said earlier, that being able to have kept my relevance, or I didn't keep it, but to have been relevant over this period of years is a huge success to me. And now on the financial side, it's still a journey, of course, you know, it's still a journey to balance between the work and the real life of the family behind, you know. But in terms of my personal life, I consider myself to be very, very successful because I was luckily blessed, not lucky. I was blessed to have found my wife, who is my friend. So we've done the journey. We've evaluated our mistakes, what we would have done better. We pray together. We plan together.
Right.
Where everything is, you know. So home, I always look forward to going home. There's never a time I finish work. I've been excited. They know that Amaeshi is the first person to go home. So
she must be missing you now that you left Joburg to come to Cape Town.
Yes, absolutely. So in that, all this, I'm very successful. And if I believe if you're successful in your personal life and you are in the path of the journey you're going, it's just a matter of time. Your experience creates your wealth. You know, so your journey creates the wealth. What you become creates the wealth, and I know that is inevitable. I'm already a wealthy man, and it's manifesting.
Awesome, amen. Now let's go on to life lessons. You've already shared some, obviously, about how to relax and, not to allow pressure to get to you. You've already shared some already, but if you have that 13-year-old Amaeshi at that time, and you want to say, you know what, do this, don't do this, or any kind of life lessons, what other life lessons would you give to that young Amaeshi back in Lagos or in Imo State?
There's a lot. Oh, well, when I was much younger than I am now, I was very hot, like very passionate, and I said my mind a lot. And especially when I felt I was correct or I had but after many years, I've discovered that it actually is not worth it. It's not always the right thing to do.
Okay.
Yes, learning to, hold back confrontation. It's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. And even though when it is correct, it might not be appropriate, I'm not in a position, especially learning not to correct someone who is your superior in any way, no matter how correct it could be. But it took me many years and many relationships that would have blossomed. So I think that's the biggest thing. And also from the musical part, being a young person, thinking there's that illusion that life just continues the way it is when it is nice. It is not always there.
Right.
I think it pays for a young person to always know that you have this, but what about the future? Think about the future. And that for me was the biggest lesson I learned when I worked with Selailo, whom I praised so much. Now, it's not an indictment on him, it was on me. I had, coming from Nigeria, I never had 30,000 naira in my account at the time as mine. Never.
Right.
I only had accounts briefly for about 6 months, and before I came out here. When I got my visa, I literally begged 100 rands on the street to get back home with that visa. So I arrived here with the help of my brother and my mom and my dad, who slaved and borrowed that money to get here. I arrived here, my first gig was 1,500 rands in 2007. And I made the calculation, that was over 30,000. And I already had a job that paid me 2,500 rands at the church. Just upon arrival, because of the goodwill of my brother. That felt like life can never be better. I just kept living it. And the year started counting because I was traveling. The following year I was traveling with Selailo and the gig was rolling. So I didn't sit down and say, okay, so what's the next thing? And because I fought when I was in Nigeria and I was playing music, my mom, you asked that question. My mom, at some point, I don't know if you have time for this. But to please my mom, I had to go back to LASU. I went to register to do accounting.
Okay. Though you wanted to do it as well. Was it your mom?
I wanted to do it, but I was writing the JAMB. You know what the story of JAMB was. Yes. So I had to go register, do that. What's that 1 year course, bridge course before you get into it? So at the Okota campus. So now I was paying with my money from the music. So that means I will go do these gigs overnight and try and go to class. Then there's this thing with the lecturers: if you don't buy this book, you are failed. Then this one says A is for God, B is for me, C is for some of you, D is for most of you. All those stories. And I did one work with one guy, and which was supposed to pay for the exam. And we did 2 weeks. I was bunking class. We finished. The guys ran away with the money. I was depressed. I was worried. You know. And then finally I reached the point. I'm no more going to school. I had to drop out because the music was not happening. The
education.
So I skipped. So one day my sister found out I wasn't going to school. She said she was going to tell mom. I said, if you tell mom, I will disappear and you guys will never see me ever again in this world. She became my partner. She didn't say no to no. So I came to South Africa. See me now running away from school. I arrived here. I'm working. I'm gigging. So life is good. I didn't think maybe I should go back to school. It didn't occur to me until I started playing jazz. Now 2018, at the age of 30 something, I went to enroll at TUT.
Okay.
Now I have my diploma, of course. And so the story in all this is that don't think it will continue like that forever, because life will change. That is the biggest story. As soon as you have something, think about the future, because life will change. So I went to school when my wife was going to school. My 2 kids were going to school. I was paying my school fees, you see, it was strenuous. Well, I made it happen.
You made it.
I made it.
You did it.
But it could have been easier. Probably would have been a doctor in music at this time.
But it's never too late.
It's never too late. No, I'm at it.
Learning is a lifelong journey. So, one can continue to learn each day. We'll be right back. Wow, my bro, thank you so much for sharing what a journey that I believe would have touched one person, 2 people, as well, especially the life lessons you shared there, what success means to you, and even that story at the beginning. As you're aware, in South Africa, Nigeria, across Africa, we have a lot of issues, social issues and other issues. So for you, what issue, or means anything, to you personally? I know you spoke about mental health and a lot of other stuff as well. But not just about the issue, what do you think then are the solution to solving that issue?
Well, for me, the biggest thing I'm passionate about is the issue of identity. It's saying it like that. It's broader than it sounds, And this is in terms of young people who are growing up in very disadvantaged environments and circumstances. Just having to be able to dream. Because for me, I couldn't. It was difficult to see beyond my environment. It was difficult, and just to be able to transition, that things are possible to happen, and that is what I try to pass in my music. My reality today is nothing compared to where I come from. By the time I left my father's house, it was sitting on a swamp, and I fish in front of our house. It was really bad. We had to just move there because now my dad and the landlord and issues. He had a plot of land. We had to just put a structure. And that was the life I knew I lived from. And, eating meat was a very serious occasion, And that was the life I knew but just to be able to see beyond that. And so for many people, it can be getting you out of a situation like that can be many different solutions. But I think religion plays a great role in some ways. I know a lot
positive role.
Positive role. Some people see it as a tool of indoctrination that has kept Africa in slavery, and they have many great points to defend that. But and I'm not here for the debate. Personally, my identity I don't like to refer it as religion, but for the sake of conversation, being a Christian and my belief in God has been the greatest instrument if I could call it that, that's taking me out of that. Just finding myself in the scriptures and what God says about me. One great example is Psalms, the book of Psalms 1 verse 3, where it says, whatsoever I do, it shall prosper. That scripture, when I think about how the going is sometimes being a musician and how people say it, it says, whatsoever. If someone was a janitor, that person could be rich being a janitor if they could see the riches in it and how to work it out. So, and also taught me not to be one-dimensional. So that means I can be many things, because whatsoever I put my hands to do, I can be successful. So that opened my mind. So I think being able to let people understand that they can actually come out of it. So you need to look for all the listeners, not everyone is a Christian. So you need to look for something that will get you out of where you are.
Right.
The most important point is that you are not defined by where you are or where you come from.
Spot on.
That is the biggest thing. Your realities are, what you make them to be.
Wow, I would have really loved to continue having this conversation. And I feel that people are listening and watching, and you allowing us to go deep and to share some of your personal experience and being vulnerable at that age, and just using that as well in terms of your music and the belief you have in God, that's taking you this far. It's commendable.
Thank you.
And just being happy, and the family support, like you have, and the mentors you've had, formally or informally in your life, has been a journey, I believe, for you. And I'm not a pastor, but I am looking at you, and I don't know, I'm just seeing that that God has not even started with you yet. Amen. There's still so much in you that you need to give of yourself, but you need to keep believing in Him, like you do, because yes, there will be different seasons, for you as well. There will be the season where you're in the valley, and there will be that season on the mountain top. But stay grounded. Because that journey of what you said, when that identity crisis you had, you didn't know you were going through depression, you didn't know, your own mental state, at that time. And the struggle, you had, are all there for a reason. And don't be ashamed to share it, no matter what. No matter what, and stay grounded to put back as well in those people that you're talking about. That young boy, back in when you were saying catching fish or no food, no meat, whatever. So you might feel you don't even have right now, but I think you need to open up more. To say, no, I want to do more. And it could be even teaching.
Yes, that's true.
In disadvantaged communities.
Absolutely.
Here. You don't need to go to Nigeria. You don't need to go to anywhere in West Africa. You're here. Oh, this is home. But yes, when you go to Nigeria, you can sow into their lives. But you could start from townships in the Gauteng area and your area, to say, you know what, let's teach music. Let's, what you've learned, play this musical instrument, and so on. As you're doing that, you'll be amazed at how more doors will be open to you.
That's true.
Because God put you through that for a reason. For it to be able to keep back and to come back, into doing that. I don't know where that came from. I don't normally do that.
I receive it. I appreciate it.
But
thank you.
I celebrate you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
I honor you.
Can I present the CD to you?
Yes.
And this one, I just came with the CD, so I thought I must give you one. It's a recording with a musician from Durban.
Wow,
acting.
that is beautiful. I can't wait. I'm sure the person who's going to be playing more of this is my husband because he's really the jazz guru.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
was not into jazz before. I didn't even understand what jazz was. I have to be honest. But now, as I've grown older, I'm just feeling it and I'm getting into it more. And yes, I can't wait. I am going to 61 minutes, and I know people don't play CDs, but I still collect CDs. I play CDs every day in my home. So, and yes, I'm going to have it signed.
Yes. Oh,
Definitely.
yes. Fantastic. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
so you're going to sign it
Yes,
for
I
me.
will.
And we too, we've just started doing this. You're going to sign our guest book
Oh, nice.
afterwards. And we want to just say as well, just to give you a small token for coming to our
thank you
studio.
so much. Oh, wow, this is beautiful.
This is just to
Thank
say
you so much.
We
I really appreciate it.
you.
Wow, this
And
is so good.
it's a small thing, but yes, it's a key ring, but it has your
Wow.
face in it and everything else, that we want to send as a message to you.
Thank you
And this
so
is
much.
something we too, we started making
Wow.
as something to generate income. Because
is
we're
so
an
good.
NGO, we support ourselves, a social enterprise, as we go. And as well, yes, you're my own boy.
Chin Chin. Thank you.
That's something else as well. No, don't mind. We've got various musical instruments behind you, shekere, and so on. And you can see
that
Mira.
was my induction into the
Is
band
it?
at the church.
Oh, really? Okay. So we've got that.
To grow to the ranks.
So you have to go through all.
Yeah.
Wow. You start with the shekere just to show.
Yes, and I actually started playing. Well, okay, that's the interview is done, of course.
No,
But
it's okay.
I started playing at the primary school actually.
Okay.
I played in the, I just tried to make my way at the school band.
Right,
So from early as primary one.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. We
Yes.
celebrate you. So you can go. That's something else we're making as well.
Thank you so
and
much.
we want to hear, about what you think the taste is.
You want to hear now?
No, not now. Afterwards. But I know it'll be good. We know it'll be good. So thank you for coming and spending the time with us, because I know you're so busy, and we feel privileged to have you in the studio to share your story, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I know you've got a few shows coming up. We don't know when, but we'll share that at some point.
And also, sorry, can I add quickly?
Yes, please.
Besides this week's gigs I've got, I'll be back again in June with another project I'm part of. It's a band of 5 musicians. We're actually blending classical music with jazz. So we're gonna have a Cape Town tour in June.
Well, you need to let us know.
Yes.
When, so that we'll see how we can work together. So, you give us all the dates. So have you got dates?
Yeah, we have dates.
Okay.
We're actually gonna be at the Commons on the 13th.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And June is Youth Month in South Africa because of June 16th. So, well, we can't wait. We'll probably see what we can do to come and feature you, and we will be sharing some of your programs as well that we at a later date. So now I want to, in closing, just to give words of encouragement to anyone you feel led to speak to, please.
Okay, well, for me, one of the greatest lessons I've learned through life is that what you need for your next level is not out there, it's within. And this is in practical words. I got to a point where I felt like I was stand still in my career, and I had to pray and study and check, and the same thing came to me. I looked, what did I have? I had an iPhone, I had my double bass, which was a piece of decoration in the house until that time. And I remember someone told me, if you play double bass, I'll book you. Took that double bass, sat in the house for 2 weeks, 10 hours every day, called the brother, Mr. Marcus White, called me over, and the story is, that was the beginning of my jazz career.
Wow.
I picked up my iPhone 3, which I bought just for fancy, and I made some tracks with it, and I went and auditioned for a solo gig, and that was the end of the drought till today. So I believe it's scriptural, and I believe it's practical. What you need to change the story of where you are right now is not out there, it's within and around you. pray, look around you, and your story will change.
Wow, beautiful, deep, deep, deep. What you need for your next level is not out there but within you. And the belief in God that you've has been the common factor, denominator in all the story he has shared with us. Wow. Well, we hope you've been blessed. We hope you've learned, and we hope through him sharing his story, you've been impacted, more than you know it. And we continue to pray and hope, for most of our musicians to get the support that they need, because there's so much power in music. If you have a child that has shown interest in instruments, musical instruments, or anything, please encourage them. You heard a story earlier on about how his music helped turn somebody else's life around from committing suicide. That's how deep music could be. So we are sharing this with you, and we hope you've learned or benefited from the journey, the resilient journey as a survivor of this young man. And please do support him. We'll be sharing his social handle details at the end of the program, because this is what we're about. If you hear about his program coming up, go there, go and support him. If you want to find out about him more, buy the albums or whatever else, contact them directly, and we'll be sharing the details, because that's how all that little ripple effect makes a bigger river, basically. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
We celebrate you, and I'm just in awe, of your journey and how you're impacting lives positively through your music, which is a calling on you as a gifted musician. So continue believing in
Thank
God.
you so much, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that's all we've got time for. We want to go on. Well, that's all we've got time for. And all I want to say is, remember, God is love. Keep doing you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, stay blessed, and love you all.